Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me for my review of the 1987 horror film Near Dark, directed by Kathryn Bigelow and starring Adrian Pasdar and Jenny Wright. This film also features performances from Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, and Jenette Goldstein, who were in Aliens together. So that's kind of an interesting reunion of sorts there. Near Dark has always been one of my favorite vampire horror films ever since I saw it several years ago, and I revisit it every couple years. I enjoy it quite a bit, and I think part of the reason for that is that when I first saw the film, and every time I go back and watch it, it comes across as a very different kind of vampire film. It does have a few vampire cliches in the plot, but this film comes across as almost kind of like a Western vampire story, if that makes sense. And also a very different take. This is a very dark, brooding, almost dreamlike film in places, I would say. Director Kathryn Bigelow creates a great atmosphere in this film. The cinematography is also very, very good. And that's one of the things I've always liked about the film. Also, there's very good chemistry between the two lead characters, Caleb and May. The early parts of the film focus a lot on them, and this is kind of a smart move and a gutsy move. I say that because it's a smart move because it really invests us in what happens in the rest of the film, but it's also gutsy because if these two characters come across as uninteresting, the whole film could collapse. Fortunately, at least in my opinion, the chemistry between the actors makes it work, and it really sets up the rest of the film very, very well. This film also has a very good 80s score by Tangerine Dream. Now, a warning, the score is very, very, very much 80s sounding, so if you're not into 80s music, it might distract you a little bit, but I personally love it and think it fits in the film very, very good. Uh, Another thing I really like about this film is that it almost presents the vampires as kind of like a family unit, which is a very interesting and unique spin as well. But make no mistakes, the vampires in this film are still very, very brutal and very, very violent. There's a bar scene in particular in this film that's very memorable, and I'll just say look for the bar scene and leave it at that. Also, I have to say, if you're a fan of Bill Paxton, in any movie, really, he steals a lot of scenes in this film. Um, Now, there are a few small issues with Near Dark, in my opinion, that I've noticed over the years. For one thing, like a lot of horror films, the dialogue, in some scenes it's okay, but in other scenes it's pretty mediocre, bordering on bad. It's not very important to this film because this is more of a moody film, and the story and pacing move along well, but it is worth mentioning that some of the writing isn't always the best, in my opinion. And this is something I don't usually bring up, but there is some odd editing in places in this film where transitions between scenes feel a little bit strange, and a few scenes come across as a little unfocused in places. It's not a big deal, but I did feel it was worth mentioning. It is noticeable, in my opinion. Um, in a way, it almost works. I don't know. It's kind of strange because it gives the film kind of a sense of the lead character kind of feeling lost. Maybe that's what they were going for. I'm not sure. Um, Also, I found it to my satisfaction, but some might find the resolution or solution, however you want to say it, to the main character's problems is handled in a very strange kind of plot twist that kind of comes out of nowhere and may not work for everyone. Like I said, it worked for me, but it is a little bit strange. Also, why I personally love the ending of this film. Others may feel it doesn't necessarily fit the tone of the rest of the film, but it's actually one of my favorite endings to any vampire film. I'll just leave it at that. So overall, Near Dark is a horror film that I really, really enjoy. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. This is definitely a horror film I recommend to all lovers of horror films, and especially vampire films in general. I think it's very much worth watching. So 4.5 out of 5 for Near Dark. And as always, thank you very much for watching.